Follow the sound of that laughter all the way to your TV. Time for a little baby talk. In fact, today we're going to speak specifically to the mummies or new moms out there. Mummy tummy. That's a term you might have heard before, still being asked if you are pregnant and your baby is already 1 year old. Well, you may be suffering from Diastasis Recti. I don't know if I've pronounced that right, but we'll find out now. Otherwise known as tummy gap. Now, to provide us with a little bit more information on this condition is founder and owner of Core and Mama Restore, Denise Louw. Denise, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, it's Diastasis Recti.
Diastasis
Recti.
Recti.
Bit of a
also known as the
mouthful.
mummy tummy.
Yeah.
Mummy tummy. This is something that I know you know a huge amount about, but I'm not. It's something my partner has. We've got a 2.5-year-old baby. She did struggle with a lot of issues post birth, but this term was never spoken about once. What is it exactly?
Okay. So diastasis recti is basically a separation of the stomach muscles, so your rectus abdominis muscles. So most people know about the rectus abdominis. It's the ones you see quite clearly on a guy who does bodybuilding and he's got the six-pack.
The abs, yeah.
So the line in the middle is called the linea alba, and what happens is it gets stretched during pregnancy because it has to stretch to accommodate...
Part of the miracle, the physical miracle that is pregnancy and birth.
Of the developing baby. So what happens is that separation occurs naturally, and normally it would retract and come back again. It's connective tissue, it just gets stretched. But sometimes it doesn't go back. And there are things that, you know, our pregnant women, our new mums are doing that actually aggravate it and make it worse. So we should be checking for it, but unfortunately we're not. But in essence, diastasis recti is a separation of the midline of the connective tissue.
Now, how would you know if you're suffering from it? Because it doesn't necessarily mean if you have the bulge, you have the mummy tummy, but how would you know then if you are suffering from it?
Often, if you've had it in pregnancy, a pregnant woman would notice it if she was reclining in the chair or in the bath and would see like a doming of the midline. You can actually see it, because often women go, oh, look, what's this? And, you know, you can say, oh, that's actually, you know, your stomach is getting weak, the muscles are getting weak, the connective tissue is getting stretched. That doming is an indication that there's a weakness there in that core. So that's one of the signs in pregnancy. But postpartum, they will just continuously feel unstable, bloated, the belly sticking out. They feel that they can't actually bring it back. And if they feel it, they can actually feel it's very, very, very soft. It's like, you know, when you've got bread dough and you can like literally poke your hands into the dough, it doesn't feel right. It feels squishy. It feels soft. And they're very self-conscious of it.
What would be the requisite time? When would the body naturally adjust? And when do you know that maybe you need to actually start looking for help or a treatment plan for it? What is that window?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So naturally, the gap would start to close by about 16 weeks. So we're looking at the 4th trimester period, really. If we look at what they do overseas, so I can really compare with the UK. So I happened to look at the notes for my own daughter when she had twins, because I was there when she had them. And they measured her immediately after the birth. So we knew she had a 5-finger gap. So that means we could get my hand, you know, into that gap. And then they measured her again at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and 16 weeks, the end of the 4th trimester. But unfortunately, in South Africa, we're not actually measuring that, so women don't know.
No.
It's just they're going by, well, I don't look right, I don't feel right, what the hell is going on? But, you know, if it hasn't closed by 16 weeks, they can do a self-test and just check. If they're really concerned, then they can have an ultrasound. An ultrasound would be a diagnostic way to check it.
To actually see.
Can this actually be uncomfortable, or is women in pain if they are suffering from the mummy tummy?
No, that's also a good question. So it doesn't necessarily always associate with back pain, not always. So, but a woman would just feel unstable, and she'll feel that those everyday chores just to care for her baby will be difficult. She'll feel that she's not really very strong, because she isn't. She's got that weakness. There's a gap in the midline, which is going to ultimately affect the entire stabilization of her core and her back.
I want to ask this, because a lot of times after giving birth, people say, jy moet hom jou styf toemaak, like a Spanx. Does it actually help? Will that help with getting the core back to its normal size?
So we've got a couple of questions going on here. Okay, so I'm going to address your question first. I've been attending courses online through the States, through the Birth Healing Institute, and they're wonderful because everything that I talk about is evidence-based. I don't like to just be sucking something out my thumb. You know, this has to be research stuff that we're talking about here. So they actually had a consensus meeting with the World Health Organization to say, should we be recommending women to bind themselves or not? And overwhelmingly, the consensus was no.
Okay.
Because we have a deep internal girdle or core which does the job for us, but we need to connect with it because we become disconnected during pregnancy. So the whole point of a belly binder would be that the woman then relies on it.
And the body doesn't kick in. Its
yeah,
natural
the body's
process
not kicking in. So
okay.
The only time they recommend to wear one would be if the woman's got a heavy day ahead of her, maybe she's going to go out shopping, going to be doing a lot of picking up and lifting, then wear it, but don't rely on it.
Okay.
Got it.
And then yours was the treatment.
Treatment of. So just very quickly, if you can go through the identification process again and treatment thereof.
Okay. So if we assess for it, we can do a self-check. The only problem is a lot of people will lie on their backs and then prod. And you're not supposed to be prodding into the midline because there's nerve endings there. So people aren't actually doing it properly and they're just lifting their heads up. And what that does is it causes the transverse abdominis to dome.
Contract.
So you're actually not getting an accurate reading.
Okay.
So if I do it, I like to get somebody to lie down, I get them to engage the core muscles, then lift the head up, and then I glide my hands across the midline and I palpate down to see, well, they say if you make a fist like this, and then you press this piece of flesh here between the knuckle, that's how your midline should feel.
Okay.
And if it's not feeling like that, then you know it's weak.
Okay.
Because most of the women, as they glide across the midline and they palpate, it's going to be going like squishy. It's not bouncing like bouncing off a trampoline.
Okay. We'll delve a little bit deeper into the treatment of and how you can approach it. We've got actually two incredible young ladies who are going to be taking us through their personal journey in this respect. But maybe you've got some comments or questions that you'd like to share with us on our Facebook page. Maybe you are going through this. Maybe a light bulb has just gone off now and you're starting to understand why you have felt unstable going through any of the various experiences that we've spoken about right now. But we're going to continue this discussion around mummy tummy or the tummy gap in just a little moment, so stick around.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in as we just have a few moments of the show left to savor with you. So we're going to do that, continuing a very important discussion this morning as part of our Baby Talk segment. We are chatting about diastasis recti or tummy gap. Mommy tummy, if you will. We are now joined by two moms who are going to share their real life experience or journey of living with this condition. Please welcome Shannon McLaughlin and Raquel Pearson. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And along with Denise, who has opened our eyes. But a lot of this kind of feels like stuff that we really should be talking about, stuff that we really should know, not just moms, but you know, as a family unit, something that should be out in the open. But thank you so much for coming and sharing with us as well, ladies.
Take us through your journey. How did you first realize that you had this condition? Maybe we'll start with you, Shannon. How did you first come to think of it and say, you know what, I have this condition, where to from here?
Yeah. So I had really bad back pain after my birth experience. And yeah, it was about, I think, 20 weeks afterwards, and I was Googling like all the different things that it could be. It just didn't seem like it was normal. I felt very like hunched over, and I went to my gynae, and he didn't really know what to say. I think he didn't know this condition very well. But I said, this doesn't feel right in my tummy. Like, could it be from the C-section? And he said to me, you know what, you can probably have plastic surgery for it. You could get a hernia. He like really scared me. And I was like, I'm not having plastic surgery. I've just had a massive operation. So I continued Googling, and luckily I found Denise. And she put my mind at ease very quickly, which was nice. But the thing that I noticed the most was I remember walking. I was pushing my baby in his pram, and I was wearing a dress that I had worn before I was pregnant, and I kept tripping over the front of it. It was almost like I had shrunk after pregnancy because my skeleton was so hunched over. I just couldn't support myself to stand up straight. And after going to seeing Denise and like learning about the breathing and just different ways to pick up my baby and look after my body while I was going through this healing process. I, a few weeks later, could walk, and my dress was like where it was meant to be. I felt like I could
I just have a vision
up.
of you standing in front of a mirror, like
what's going on here?
my head. And we can joke about it, but I would imagine it can be, because you've been put through such a physical journey. As a guy, you sit and watch this miraculous process from pregnancy to birth just with wide-eyed wonder. But it's hectic. On the body, it is hectic, especially the birth and coming through that, regardless of whether it's a natural birth or a C-section. What was the journey like for you? When did you identify that this was actually a condition that you were experiencing?
So for me, I'm a runner, and that's my outlet. And after giving birth, I was like, right, you know, I'm going to get straight back into it, and I'm going to get back, be that fit mommy, and I started exercising, and it just, I didn't feel right, you know, it didn't feel 100%, and I started to question my ability to actually pick up my son and to hold him, and with enough strength, and they don't get any lighter, they just get heavier and heavier and bigger, you know, and I just struggled to pick him up, and my back was sore, and I was hunched over, and my posture wasn't good, and I thought, well, I'm going to get into this running thing. And then I met Denise, and through my doula as well, Denise opened my eyes, and she said, right, we've got to start you off by getting your core so much stronger before you even consider going back to running and doing any kind of hectic exercise. And it just really has helped me in the last 4 or 5 weeks that we've been with Denise.
This is really fresh.
My mummy tummy has, almost disappeared. And my little boy's 4 months, and it's literally 6 sessions with Denise. And it's been an incredible journey. It's for life, like Denise always says. These kind of exercises are for life.
I almost find myself doing this now because I want to. But I actually have a question. Is mothers more prone who had natural birth or C-section to get the mummy tummy, or what is like?
No, it's the same. It's the same, because regardless of how you birth, you know, you're still going to go through a pregnancy,
your body is still going
and your
through
body's still going to be expanding. And the relaxin hormone plays a huge part of that. So the relaxin hormone floods all the connective tissue throughout the whole body. It's not just in the stomach, it's in the pelvis, it's in the wrists, the ankles. I mean, most postpartum women are quite weak in their ankles, which is why heading out for a run until that settles is not a good idea. And that relaxin hormone normally takes, you know, by the 4th trimester, if you're not breastfeeding. If you're breastfeeding, new research shows us that you retain the relaxin hormone. You're not producing it anymore, but you hang on to it until you wean your baby. So a breastfeeding mom's actually walking around with an unstable body for a long time.
I would imagine, I joked about that light bulb moment now, but I'm sure there are a lot of women who are having that experience as they're listening to us right now. To those women that are possibly going through exactly what you did, what advice do you have, Shannon?
I think, you know, I think Denise said to me once, it was like 1/3 of women get this. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think it just needs to be like, you know, when you become a mom, there's all these things that you just get hit with, like, this is what's happened to you now, and you have to deal with it. And you feel so helpless, but this is actually maybe just a part of motherhood, and there's just 1/3 of moms get this, and it's part of the journey. So it's not like there's something wrong with you and you're never going to feel normal again. Although it does feel like that in the beginning, because you go from feeling like super strong in your core before you get pregnant, because that's just, even if you don't work out, like I wasn't like going to gym, I just was strong.
That's the reason why we call it the core.
Yeah, and that supports your whole body, and then you feel so unstable, and like there's just you can't even bend down and pick something up. And it does get better, but it does take time. And just to be gentle with yourself, don't go like going to the gym, doing planks and crazy things like that. Like one of my friends went and did that, and she actually came to me and she was like, oh, this was like 6 months after she had her baby. She said she has to go have an operation, and she told me what her gynae said, and I was like, no, go see Denise, don't have it.
Yeah,
and she landed up going to Denise, and she didn't have it. So I think this information is quite new. Yeah, so just be kind to yourself.
Well, then thank you again, far more intensely for coming out here and speaking and doing what you do, Denise. We're going to have all of your contact details on screen and on our Facebook page, but I would say a good place to start, core-restore.co.za is a good place to start. Speak about this on your antenatal groups if you do have. Speak to your medical practitioners, get them to wise up a little bit, and maybe you can help open their eyes. But I think the most important take home here is, like, don't judge yourself through the process. Just understand that you're going through the miracle and all that is crazy people passing out as we say this. But just take that out of the conversation completely and just go easy on yourself.